Brandon Gibbs made a drastic move that has left his fiancée, Julia, absolutely speechless. The unexpected decision has sparked a massive reaction from her, and now fans are questioning whether this couple can survive such a dramatic shift in their relationship. As most fans know, Brandon and Julia's relationship has always been a bit unconventional. From their initial meeting in Russia to moving in together at Brandon's parents' farm in Virginia, their journey has been filled with its fair share of challenges. But this latest move by Brandon takes things to a whole new level, and Julia is clearly not prepared for it. It all started when Brandon decided to take a major step toward independence, something that Julia had been wanting for quite some time. She has always felt like they've been held back by the constraints of living under his parents' roof. Julia, a Russian native, has voiced her frustrations multiple times about not being able to live a truly independent life with Brandon. She's wanted a sense of freedom and space to live as a couple without the constant presence of his parents hovering over them. In the most recent episode, Brandon made the shocking decision to quit his job and move to a new city to start fresh. But what really left Julia stunned was not just the move, but the fact that he didn't consult her beforehand. Julia found out about Brandon's plans when he casually mentioned it during a conversation. As you can imagine, she was not thrilled with the news. Brandon's reasoning behind the move was that he felt trapped in the small-town life they had been living. He wanted to pursue better career opportunities and get away from the overbearing environment his parents created. But Julia felt blindsided. She had expressed her desire for them to live independently, but this sudden decision made her question whether Brandon was truly thinking about their future together. Julia, understandably, felt hurt and betrayed. She had been looking forward to their plans of building a life together, but now, everything seemed to be in question. The shock on her face said it all. She had no idea Brandon was even considering such a move, and the fact that he didn't consult her first made her feel like she wasn't a priority in his life. As the tension between them grew, Julia confronted Brandon about the lack of communication. She demanded to know why he didn't involve her in such a big decision. Brandon, on the other hand, insisted that he was doing it for their future. He argued that moving to a new city would open up more opportunities for them both, and it was the best way to start fresh and build a stronger foundation. However, Julia wasn't convinced. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was yet another example of Brandon making decisions without considering her input. The couple's disagreement escalated when Julia expressed how overwhelmed she felt by the constant changes in their lives. She had already left her family and friends behind in Russia to start a new life in the US, and now it seemed like everything was being turned upside down again. She wanted stability and assurance that Brandon had a clear plan for their future, but instead, she was left with more questions than answers. Julia's reaction was one of shock and confusion. She couldn't believe that after everything they had been through, Brandon would make such a life-altering decision without discussing it with her first. She feared that their relationship was starting to unravel, and that this move might be the final straw. Brandon, for his part, didn't fully understand why Julia was so upset. He thought that by making this move, he was securing a better future for them both. He felt like he was doing the right thing by pursuing new opportunities. But he failed to see that the way he handled the situation made Julia feel disregarded and ignored. As the couple continued to argue, it became clear that their communication was at the heart of the issue. Julia felt that Brandon wasn't being transparent with her about his plans, and she couldn't shake the feeling that he was acting impulsively. Brandon, on the other hand, felt frustrated that Julia wasn't seeing the bigger picture and wasn't willing to take risks for the sake of their future. Fans of the show have been divided in their opinions on this situation. Some believe that Brandon's decision was a step in the right direction, a bold move toward creating a better life for them both. Others, however, feel that Brandon should have been more considerate of Julia's feelings and included her in the decision-making process. The tension between them continues to grow as they struggle to find common ground. Julia is left questioning whether Brandon is truly the partner she thought he was. She had hoped that they would be able to make decisions together, but now, it seems like Brandon is making major life choices without her input. For Julia, this raises a bigger question. Can she trust Brandon to make decisions that will affect their future together? As the drama unfolds, one thing is clear: the future of Brandon and Julia's relationship is uncertain. Will they be able to overcome this communication breakdown and build a life together, or will this shocking move be the thing that ultimately drives them apart? The couple's journey is a reminder that communication and mutual respect are key in any relationship. When one partner makes a life-changing decision without consulting the other, it can create a rift that is hard to repair. Brandon and Julia's situation shows just how important it is to be on the same page and make decisions together, especially when it comes to major life changes. Brandon Gibbs from 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, has hinted at his new goals following Julia Trobkina's departure from the United States. Although Brandon and Julia have been married for over 5 years, their relationship has never been without its flaws. They recently underwent therapy to work on their marital troubles, which brought them closer. However, the couple experienced another devastating setback with the loss of their beloved dog, Simba. Each coped with the grief in their own way, with Brandon focusing on his physical fitness and Julia putting her efforts into her business. While Julia enjoyed her time with her family in Serbia, Brandon remained in the US. Recently, he posted a few Instagram stories alluding to his current goals. Posting photos from the gym, he indicated his strong focus on physical well-being. Accompanying the pictures was the popular song Tears Don't Fall by Bullet for My Valentine. Although Brandon didn't elaborate on his relationship status with Julia, he did wear his wedding band in the photos, suggesting that his marriage was in a good place. Brandon has discovered a new passion, while Julia is spending time with her loved ones in Serbia. His decision to stay in the United States while his wife travels alone showcases a strong commitment to their relationship. It seems that therapy has had a positive impact on him, motivating him to be more supportive. Hopefully, the 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, cast members' newfound interest in fitness will allow him to evolve into the person he aspires to be. It may also help him overcome the stress that has plagued his life for some years. Last year, viewers witnessed Brandon experiencing anxiety during his time at the resort while undergoing therapy with his wife. A year before that, he had to be hospitalized due to a panic attack he had while filming a tell-all episode. It appears that Brandon has made a concerted effort to prioritize fitness in support of his mental and physical well-being. Working on his health may also help him reduce stress and lead a more fulfilling life. Hopefully, Brandon is able to achieve the fitness he has set for himself. Julia's trip to Serbia presented the perfect opportunity for Brandon to focus on his fitness goals. With fewer responsibilities as a husband, he now has the chance to prioritize his health and well-being. Knowing that Julia is fulfilling her desire to connect with her family members brings him joy, as he can see her happiness grow. This trip not only gives Julia a well-deserved break, but also allows Brandon to feel a sense of relief. Strengthening their bond in marriage, this experience is sure to have a positive impact on the 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After couple's relationship. Julia Trobkina from 90 Day, The Last Resort lost her son recently and shared a heartfelt message to him on social media as she mourned his loss. Julia and Brandon Gibbs were introduced as a couple in 90 Day Fiancé Season 8. Being from the city, Julia struggled to live on a farm but eventually made Virginia her home. However, Julia and Brandon faced challenges in their marriage due to Julia not wanting kids. She revealed she had a medical issue that affected her chances of getting pregnant, but Julia did become a mom, eventually in the US. Julia shared an old Instagram story she'd posted featuring Simba when a fan had asked her who her best friend in America was, and she replied, "My son." She posted a different picture of her and Simba sitting side by side on the couch as she laughed heartily. She wrote, "He was with me from the very beginning of my journey in America." Julia wrote that Simba changed her and showed her the kind of love she never knew existed, and is now showing her the pain that she never knew before. Julia spoke about how this was a new feeling for her. While she had lost family members and friends before, losing Simba meant that he had taken a piece of her heart with him. She added that the pain was never going to go away. Although Julia decided never to have children because of what a doctor in Russia had told her, Brandon encouraged her to seek a second opinion in America. Julia was afraid to do so, fearing she would relive the pain of being told she could never become a mother. Still, Simba and her other pet, a German shepherd named Nala, made Julia feel like more than just a pet owner. She became their mother. As she mentioned, Simba had been her constant companion from day one, when she had no one else in America to call a friend. Losing a pet can deeply affect relationships, adding stress and emotional strain. For Julia and Brandon, however, the loss of Simba seems to have brought them closer. Brandon, who was raised on a farm, has always shared a strong bond with animals. Both he and Julia are grieving deeply, and their shared pain is creating an opportunity for mutual support. In the past, poor communication was a major issue in their marriage. Now, as they navigate this loss together, being open and supportive is more important than ever. Through grief, they may find a renewed sense of connection and understanding. Julia appears to have been away from home when Simba passed away. She shared that Brandon surprised her with a first-class plane ticket. At the time, Simba's condition was not improving. Julia had cared for him for a month, and Brandon was working hard to support her. He had planned to stay with Simba while Julia was away. It's likely that not being by her pet's side when he took his last breath is also deeply affecting the 90 Day, The Last Resort star. Brandon Gibbs from 90 Day, The Last Resort is stepping up his workouts as he continues his fitness journey after being hospitalized. He made his debut on the show in 2020 when his fiancée, Julia Trubkina, moved to the United States from Russia. The couple tied the knot during the season, despite Julia's ongoing conflicts with Brandon's parents. Despite being married for 5 years, Brandon and Julia still have frequent arguments, particularly about starting a family. They have joined 90 Day, The Last Resort Season 2 to work on finding a resolution to their marital issues. Brandon has begun working with a fitness trainer, Antoine Britt, who helps him push his limits during workouts to achieve his desired physical strength. Recently, Brandon's trainer posted a picture of him doing medicine ball crunches with the caption, "Come on at Brandon Gibbs 92. It's time to level up." Despite finding the crunches challenging, Brandon was seen with a big smile on his face. Brandon struggles with anxiety and panic attacks, which indirectly impact his relationship with Julia, who has seemingly never experienced such conditions before. It appears that after completing therapy on 90 Day, The Last Resort, Brandon has discovered strategies to handle his mental health better, allowing him to have more control over his emotions and maintain a healthy marriage with Julia. Throughout the season, he experienced intense anxiety and angry outbursts, and even resorted to name-calling Julia at one point. Perhaps he is prioritizing regular exercise to reduce stress and improve his mood. Brandon is not only working out regularly, but has also hired a personal trainer who can explain how to perform certain exercises using the correct technique to help him improve his fitness. Starting with beginner-level workouts at the beginning of his fitness journey, Brandon is now prepared to move on to tougher exercises to strengthen his core. In the recent picture, he could be seen doing medicine ball crunches, which are significantly more challenging than traditional crunches. Perhaps Brandon doesn't just want to be healthy, but also wants to achieve the ultimate physique and feel confident. There is a possibility that Brandon is focusing heavily on his fitness and wants to become more desirable, because some of his male co-stars mocked him for breaking down during an argument with Julia. During Between the Sheets, Josh Weinstein made fun of Brandon on 2 separate occasions, suggesting he resorted to crying and walking out of the tough situations instead of confronting them. Brandon may be ramping up his workouts to boost his self-confidence in handling such situations. Hopefully the 90 Day, The Last Resort star achieves all his fitness goals. Julia Trubkina from 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, revealed whether her parents are on their way to America to live with her after she lost her dear family member. Julia and Brandon got married in 2020. Julia was unhappy with her living situation, which involved staying on Brandon's parents' farm. She adjusted to the new life, and Julia found a career in training the dogs that the elderly couple was breeding. However, Julia and Brandon had to deal with trust and financial issues, more of which will be documented during 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, Season 9. Julia recently shared a post on Instagram showing her with her parents and her brother. She revealed she was in Belgrade, Serbia, with her parents but never shared the purpose of her visit. In the comments section, one of Julia's followers at MyGenevab asked her, "Did you bring your parents to America?" Julia replied, "We will see," with 3 crossed finger emojis. However, Julia later shared an Instagram story showing her going to an interview for a visa with her mom and dad. Julia and Brandon have a long history of miscommunication, and it goes beyond her struggles with English. Before Julia moved to the US, she broke Brandon's trust by cheating with her ex-boyfriend. Although they were on a break at the time, Brandon never truly forgave her, even 5 years later. He has also disagreed with many of her major life choices, such as not wanting children and wanting her parents to come to the US. Julia's parents are divorced and often argue, which made Brandon uncomfortable with the idea of them living in the same house. He may have also been worried about being financially responsible for them, especially since Julia had not yet established her pet services business when they filmed The Last Resort Season 2. Feeling lonely in the US, Julia likely wanted her parents for emotional support. She applied for their tourist visas without telling Brandon, but he reacted as if they were moving to Virginia permanently. Julia has broken down in therapy and online but rarely shares the full story. Recently, her sadness came from losing her beloved dog Simba to a stroke. She saw him as her son. With Julia openly battling depression, emotional support has become even more important, especially as Brandon remains distant and frustrated. While the couple may reveal more on 90 Day Fiancé, happily ever after, Julia attending her parents' visa appointment alone, without Brandon, speaks volumes about the growing distance in their marriage and hints at deeper issues they have yet to fully confront. Warning: the following contains spoilers from the 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After episode, Mamma Mia. Here we go again. Stream the episode with an HBO Max subscription and read at your own risk. Brandon and Julia Gibbs have a big decision to make in the latest episode of 90 Day Fiancé, and quite literally, everyone and their mother is involved. The Happily Ever After couple received positive news about her previous diagnosis of infertility, but before she has an operation to boost her chances of a successful pregnancy, Julia wants to do some traveling. She's willing to sell her condo in Russia to get the money, and of course, Betty and Ron have an opinion about it. Brandon's parents have a constant presence in their son's 90 Day Fiancé storylines, and there's a good reason for it. After seasons of watching them swoop in whenever he doesn't get his way, I think, for the sake of his marriage with Julia and my sanity, it's time to tell his well-intentioned parents to back off. Are 90 Day Fiancé stars Brandon Gibbs and Julia Trubkina still together? The Season 8 couple seemed to overcome the obstacles facing them when she arrived in America on her K-1 visa to begin the 90-day countdown to their wedding day. But the TLC stars bickered and only continued to have their arguments after appearing on the show, which has fans wondering where their relationship stands after filming Season 2 of 90 Day, The Last Resort. Julia and Brandon met while his friend was on vacation in her native country of Russia. The friend ran into Julia at a club, where she worked as a dancer, and they FaceTimed Brandon to introduce them. Brandon and Julia exchanged numbers, and the rest was history. After only several months of dating, he proposed to the brunette beauty during a romantic vacation to Iceland and began the K-1 visa process, which would legally allow Julia to move to the US as Brandon's fiancé under the condition the couple weds within 90 days of her arrival. Brandon had accrued about $10,000 of debt funding their long-distance relationship, so he and Julia planned to live with his parents on their family farm to save money for their wedding and their own place. Along with the free room and board, Brandon's parents, Betty Gibbs and Ron Gibbs, set rules in place. Brandon and Julia were not allowed to sleep in the same bedroom until they were married, and Julia was to help out with the farm chores like cleaning and feeding their animals. Julia was not on board with the rules, and after a month of living with Brandon's family at their home in Dinwiddie, Virginia, she gave Brandon an ultimatum. Either they move off the farm and into their own place immediately, or she goes back to Russia. As a last-ditch effort, Brandon asked his parents if they would be open to letting him and Julia sleep in the same bedroom. Out of fear of losing their son, they agreed. The couple had a pregnancy scare shortly after, which was resolved with a negative pregnancy test. Once the drama was out of the way, they turned their attention on planning their nuptials. But Julia started to grow increasingly frustrated with Brandon's lack of enthusiasm and interest in helping her lay out the details of their big day. She was particularly upset when Brandon didn't show any emotion or share his opinion with her while they went wedding dress shopping with his mom, Betty. The drama between Brandon and Julia came to a peak during a March 2021 episode. While touring a local church as a possible venue for their wedding ceremony, the warden asked for details like how many guests they were expecting. Betty immediately responded they would hope to invite 50 to 70 people, which was a surprise to Julia. She asked Brandon if he knew how many people he would want to invite, to which he said, "No. I guess he don't know about the wedding, nothing sick," Julia said, visibly upset. Betty defended her son, explaining to Julia that this is his first time he's ever been engaged. "Okay, second time, you'll be fine," Julia hit back at her husband-to-be. Brandon, Betty, and Ron laughed, but Julia didn't seem to find it funny and was upset because she felt Betty was